Alrighty, guys. Thank you guys for starting to tune in. Um, I know we're a few minutes out, but you know how it is. When the mindset is right and the time is right,
When the mindset,
we make it right. That's how it is. Give me 1 second here,
when the
guys.
mindset, we make it right.
Yes. I like to check to make sure my audio is working, so I was doing that for a second, and I also was putting everything on all the right portfolios, making sure that everyone who should have the connection get it, and it's in right at their fingertips. Because once we go live, I'm not able to share all the information like I wanted to. So I would prefer to make sure that I post it in all the areas that I know you guys are located, and you're able to see it and know we are on and we're ready. And I'm about to call Kyle in a couple of minutes, but before I do that, I want you guys that are here to start sharing the live. Once you get on, just start sharing the live, because tonight is going to be very good. Another informative night. I just got in order to make sure that I was on time, but some things were out of my control, so I wasn't able to make it according to my schedule and the time that I wanted to. But I'm here and we're connected. So now let's get this party started right. Let me try to get Kyle on the line, and we'll be able to get going. While you're on, guys, do me a favor and let me know you're hearing me right. You can bless up yourself by saying good evening, and I'll be able to endorse you and welcome you. If it's your first time here, do me a favor and please ensure that you subscribe. If it's not your first time here and you're already a member, you can of course say you're already a member. But bless up from all the way in Nigeria. I see you. And Alex, bless up. I know it's pretty late over there, but you guys are able to wait up for this informative message, and I appreciate it. Give me 1 second. Let me try to make the call here. Okay. Oh. Okay, let me do it now. 1305. Okay, let's try this and get connected. Okay, we should be ready. Let's get Kyle on the line. Oh, you know what? I think Maurio, could you come and unlock this phone? Okay, Mr. McGlotten.
Hey, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly, but I'm calling you from the. I need to call you back within just 2 seconds. I dialed from the wrong phone.
Okay.
All right, just hang up and I'm calling you back right now as we speak.
All right, perfect.
Good. 388101. There you go. All right, here we go, guys. Now we're ready to rock and roll. Are you
Oh
here?
man, this is very clear. It's very loud too. This is good.
Good. Now we're on. So as I say, guys, now we got Kyle on the line. Make sure once you get on, you share so that we can get this information to as much people as possible. All the people wherever you're from, thank you for tuning in. And it's an informative evening. And I appreciate you, Kyle, for taking the time out to sit with us tonight and divulge some info that we all want to hear. So we'll have you go ahead and start by introducing yourself to the world and all the people who are here and all who will be, who's not on as yet.
Sure thing. My name is Kyle McGlotten, and I like to help people, and I know we're going to cover a lot of topics tonight. A lot of them are going to center on financial literacy. So, Mario, do you want me to just kind of talk about background, story?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay.
Let's get to know you a little bit, because some of these people they know based on the bio and details that I post, but let's get them introduced so they can officially hear you say it. Because maybe I might have divulged a little bit too much already, but we'll see.
All right, good deal, good deal. So I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I was actually born not too far away from where the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, grew up.
Nice.
And so that's West Philadelphia specifically, born and raised. And I've worked, I have 5 children, married, and the kids range from the ages of 27 all the way to 10 years old, and I also have a granddaughter now.
Great.
Yeah, so just a little bit about my background and kind of how I got to where I am. I kind of started working in corporate America. Not going to say when, because that would divulge my age.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's been a minute.
Gotcha.
And so I always, I did not finish college initially. I had like half a degree, which is close to no degree, some college courses, but I knew that there was something more out there. So I just started, applying myself and kind of working in corporate America. Started in collections, and that led to some opportunities in finance and running operations for different companies. It also led me to an amazing time in my life where I had the opportunity to run operations for a couple different divisions out of where I was physically located offshore in Jamaica. Now they call it near shore as opposed to offshore. But yeah, that was a fabulous time in my life. Two of my kids were born on the island, and
good.
And I met my wife there.
Nice. So you've traveled, based on my assumption and based on what you've said, you've traveled and you visited different places and also lived in different places. And you grew up and from where you grew up and from where you traveled, you've pretty much diversed yourself into from who you were to who you are.
Absolutely.
Good.
A lot of learning, a lot of growth. But even at a young age, I always knew that I wanted to travel and get out there and see the world and meet people. That was always the thing for me, not just going to different sites and taking pictures, but getting an opportunity to meet people and experience different cultures and different perspectives, because I knew that was going to help me grow and I was going to be a better person for it.
And with the idea that you've traveled and you've had these experiences, how has that impacted your life?
It's been a great impact on my life. I realized that, sometimes if you you're born and raised in America, you have kind of one perspective of the world. And depending on how you grew up, whether you grew up middle class, poor, upper class, you still just have that one perspective typically. But get an opportunity to just travel the world and then see, and then the better opportunity than traveling, get an opportunity to actually live and work in different places. It just gives you a different view. And that kind of helped shape some of the things I wanted to do. And I knew there was something more out there than just having a job, rising through the ranks, becoming like a senior leader at XYZ company. That was interesting to me, but it wasn't my motivation.
You felt like you valued yourself more than that. I mean, getting an increase, getting a promotion, and getting all these different levels, but yet you still felt like within you're valued more than getting up every morning, rushing to go through the door, trying to figure out how the next paycheck is going to come. Put it that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I learned early on that job stood for just over broke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I didn't want to be in that position for the rest of my life. I just kind of saw it. And then I had that great opportunity when I was in my early 20s, right around the time, right before my oldest son was born, to get involved in network marketing. And that helped me kind of grow a lot, right? So, you know, the network marketing team that I, you know, because you're exposed to personal development, individual development, just kind of growing yourself so that you can be a better business leader. And that helped me understand that there was more out there, you know, because you have an opportunity to start a business, grow that business, and you didn't necessarily have to rely on working a job until you're 65, 70, and then you retire on Social Insecurity or whatever the scraps that the government provides to you.
Gotcha. Before we go any further, let me ask you this though. A lot of people these days, to their knowledge, they're being introduced to different ideas when it comes to, say, getting wealthy or making money or growing. So I'll give you an idea so you can get what I'm saying. So for example, someone will tell you, here's how you can quit working for people. You can come in and pay me $1,000, and when you pay me $1,000, you're gonna get that back in 30 days. And after the 30 days, all you have to do is bring in your brother, your mother, your sister, and they pay 1,000. And you eventually, over the course of 6 months or over the course of a year, you're gonna become a millionaire. I don't know if you've. Okay, I'm just saying, using this as an example, that people these days, a lot of people are thinking that these are ways to become, and everyone is trying to get wealthy by bringing someone else and bringing someone else, and it's piggybacking on the idea of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly enough, that's the premise behind network marketing. It's everything you said. So you get involved, and then you bring people in, and then you use the products, and you get other people to use the products. And so that's the whole premise behind that. But you're exactly right. That's one way. There's some inefficiencies in that way, some things where that may not necessarily be sustainable.
Right.
But there's other ways where you can be truly independent, and it centers on adding value.
Gotcha.
And the more value you can add, your earning potential becomes unlimited, whether that's you yourself or your business.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some of the topics on things that you would maybe like to help us out with tonight that would be helpful for someone who is thinking that they're doing a 9 to 5 now, they're making $300 a week or $350 a week or $700 a week, and at the end of the month, their bills are over $4,000, even though they're only making $2,800. So in order to back up to that, some persons end up running from one job to the next, having no time for their family, no time for their kids, no time to be able to even spend getting to know themselves. All they end up doing is running from one to the next, nothing in retirement, nothing set aside for any life other than just from job to job to job. And that's it. And bills. Job and bills. Put it that way.
Absolutely. So I'm going to have you stick a pin on that, because I'm going to come back and answer that question. And let me just I want to kind of fill in the gap to kind of how I got here. And so right before probably 2018, 2019, I started, even prior to that, I started investing in real estate maybe about 20 years ago. And before I invested $1 into any type of property, I went out there and got educated on it. So I invested in myself. I paid for courses to just learn, right? And I learned, I made a bunch of mistakes. I made some money, did some transactions. And at one point, I think it was about 24, 25, I had acquired about 18 rental units. And so some of those rental units were single family homes with a couple bedrooms. Some of them were triplexes, and quads were triplex with 3 units and quad with 4 units. Made a bunch of mistakes because my biggest problem there was, I invested in myself, and that helped me get started. But then I kind of stopped. I rested on what I had learned up to that point and didn't continue getting educated, right? And that impacted my ability to be successful, right? So the message there is if you invest in yourself, you can't do it just once. You have to continue doing it. I mean, I've done financial literacy classes stateside. I did financial literacy classes this summer in Jamaica, and I'm still learning. I still invest. I still invest in myself. I still, purchase courses and align with mentors and, pay for programs so that I'm continuing to learn, so that I'm being challenged mentally, but I'm also refining what I know. Right. So that's really the key there. So the reason why I bring up that story, because I think it's relevant. I didn't just start my investing journey yesterday. We're 22 years in this thing right now.
Right.
And so back in 2018, 2019, I started investing in the stock market for the first time. And I did not get into it before, Mario, because I really didn't understand it. It's extremely complex, and I couldn't figure out a way to reduce the complexity. And so I started reading YouTube and kind of getting exposed. And again, I made my problem there, and the lesson there when I lost a little money in the stock market initially is because I did not invest in the right things. And what I mean by that, so I was doing an investment in myself, but I wasn't investing in partnering with the right people that can give me the knowledge to take me from that entry level, not understanding stocks, to becoming more acclimated and continuing to grow and gain knowledge. Right? So I remedied that and continued to learn. And then I realized I would always share memes with a financial element to it with my kids. And during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, I realized, I'm like, man, I'm learning all this, but if I get wealthy and I don't pass that knowledge to them, what's the point? There is no generational wealth there. It just stops with me.
Right.
And so I created it was a simple PowerPoint with a couple slides, well, about 20 slides for my children. And the kids were kind of spread all across the country. And I actually taught them about investing. So we started with kind of budgeting, and then we focused just on the stock market, how the stock market started. And a lot of people don't know, but some of the first things that were traded on the stock market were people, slaves from Africa.
Okay.
Right. So I explained that to them, and then I helped them understand community economics and something called Black Wall Street, which they had never heard of. Right. And so it was place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they actually had a thriving financial district and businesses. Yes. And so I explained to them how the money circulated there. It was over a month that dollar would stay there before it left the community.
Right.
And so I kind of broke that down and I kind of trained them. And then the next step was the actionable thing, right? So you can give people education, you can give them knowledge, but if you don't help them take action and then try to hold them accountable, it's just words on a slide. So I opened up investment accounts that I can manage for the kids that were younger than 18. And then for the kids so two of the kids were older than 18, I actually gave them money to open up the accounts so they can start investing in stocks, taught them how to evaluate the companies and make good investments. And then they opened their accounts and they kind of started buying stocks and kind of building from there.
So you taught them a little bit on how to get in and little things like that, but they themselves are learning as young as they are and growing in it. Yes. And then the next step to that was I was sharing it with a friend of mine who actually also worked in Jamaica at one point. And he said, hey, I would love for you to do that with my two boys. So he had two boys that were 14 and 12, 13 at the time. And so that prompted me starting this business called Gen Wealth Academy, where we focus on teaching kids and hopefully their parents. It's geared towards kids, but we want the whole family to be engaged, helping them learn financial literacy, helping them learn about, investing and buying businesses, starting businesses, investing in great companies in the stock market, looking at crypto projects and investing in cryptocurrency, and just understanding income streams
and how those income streams can help them and how they don't need a bunch of money to start.
That's good. That's very good. A lot of kids these days aren't learning money management, aren't learning nothing at all other than just going to school. And when we were younger growing up, no one taught us things like that.
Yes,
And
yes,
then
you're exactly right.
And then because of that, you had to do it all on your own, as far as, what to do, how to spend, how to not spend. You had to make mistakes first, most of us, in order to then fix yourself
Yes.
and start doing right. So that is
Yes,
definitely
yes.
something that's good for us as parents, to know that it's good to teach the children and teach your kids from as young as they are, and as young as they can handle money. You start teaching them how to, and if they can't, teach them how to handle money, because it's going to be a major factor in their life.
Yes, yes. And, getting to school, and I'm going to answer that question here next. Getting back to school, all school teaches us. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-school.
Yeah,
I
right.
myself graduated from law school in 2020, continued to get educated and got a bachelor's, and then eventually tried one law school. That didn't work, and eventually graduated from Texas A&M School of Law in 2020. So I'm not anti-school. However, we have to understand what school provides, and the majority of schooling is memorization and repetition. But it's so low and less of the thinking and the analysis, right? So if we truly want to educate our kids, it's not about looking at something in a book or looking at phrases and looking at definitions and memorizing them. It's the application. It's thinking about interesting ways to solve problems. Case in point, in school, it is you'll get in trouble if you look at your friend's paper when you're taking a test, right?
Right.
It's cheating, they say, right? Mm-hmm. But in business, that happens all the time. You partner up. You have strategic alliances. You work as a team to solve a problem.
True.
And there are some schools and some classes out there within school districts that are doing this, but it's too far and few between. So essentially what we're doing when we send our kids to school, if that's the only thing we provide for them from an education perspective, we're just basically teaching them how to be employees. We're not teaching them enough on the thinking and the analysis and the problem solving. Mm-hmm. Too often we teach them to almost stick our head in the sand when it comes to problems. Right?
But not teaching them to be independent.
Yes, independent thought. So I've had to change, and I didn't know this when my oldest started school, and this is just something that came to me within the last 5 years, but I've even changed my approach with my children, especially the younger ones, in terms of focusing more on the artistic side, because that's going to help them think and learn how to problem solve. I got my youngest daughter and my middle daughter as well. She's 16 now, involved in coding, right? And unfortunately, at the time when we initially got my middle daughter involved in coding, we didn't have the funds to continue to send her to coding class. But with my youngest daughter, we're in a much better position, and I've made some really good financial decisions, and so she's good. She's learning coding, and the piece behind that is it's teaching her how to problem solve. It's teaching her how to think. She knows more about coding than I do now, and we're going to get her prepped where she will be able to build games and build apps. And then we're going to talk to her a little bit about, hey, what can we do about this? What can we do? How can you add value to other people with the skills that you learned? And if that value equates to money, great. If that value equates to just her being a blessing to others, sharing that knowledge, that's great too. But she's using what she learns, and she's continuing to learn. So to go back to that question you asked, the biggest challenge we have is the fact that we're not taught this. We're taught how to be employees. So when we get money and we get our paychecks, we typically spend more than what we should. Mm-hmm. And every time we get a raise and a promotion, like you mentioned earlier, our spending goes up. But we typically don't increase our investing or our saving, right?
Right.
And so for those people that are in that situation where, their bills are kind of getting out of hand, one of the things I say, most financial folks are going to say, hey, you need to cut back. Sometimes you can't cut back because you put yourself in a position when you really can't cut back. You have certain obligations, and maybe you just you don't have the temperament or the stomach to really, really cut back. And that cut back may be selling a car, and doing some other things. So What I always say is you got to look at your individual situation. If you can cut back, and learn how to develop a money plan. And we can help with that as well, our academy, where most people call it a budget. We're changing the name. We're not calling it a budget. We're calling it a money plan. It's a plan for your money. And then you also may want to consider, if you can't cut back, or if you can only cut back certain things, maybe you get a second job. Maybe it's on the weekends. Maybe it's some nights. And maybe you only work that job for a specific period of time, that second job, where you can generate some money to either save and invest, or save and pay down debt, or a combination of both of those things.
That definitely is a good plan. And I'll tell you, when it comes to cut back, I've seen adjustments myself, and I've seen ways that some persons might not pay attention to little things like these, but there is always a way that you could figure stuff out. I could share a story with you. For example, I remember one time when I used to get electricity bills, and they would be at a certain number, really extremely high number. And I try to figure out, how can we make adjustments to make this less? And it was very simple. All you had to do is use less, because if you use less, the bill has to be less. So there's a lot of things that you could do, is turn stuff off when you're not using it. Avoid using things that would burn more electricity. When you don't need hot water, then don't use hot water. When you don't need to have an extra bulb, you turn it off. Things like that. Plug things out that you're not using. Maybe, for example, if you have an outdoor light bulb and you usually turn it on at 5 o'clock in the evening, how about maybe if you turn it on at 7 or at 8? That's 3 hours you won't be needing it. You know what I mean? There's little things that you can always do to try to adjust. Many persons might have Netflix as an example. I had Netflix that I used to run every month, and some subscriptions and so on. And then I remember they said Amazon Prime has movies. I like watching a movie sometimes, but all I did was cut off all the ones that I didn't need and only keep one. Little things that you could do, and all those money add up.
It does. And you may have to make the sacrifice, to your earlier point, where you may have less time with the family, and that's why I say it's important to have a plan. I'm not advocating that you get a second job for 5 years, unless you have a specific plan where you're going to buy real estate, and that's what you're using for that money. You're going to pay down debt first and then buy real estate, but you also got to make sure your family's tied into that. You don't want to make those decisions on your own. You want to make sure that the family understands the goal and you stick to it.
Correct.
And sometimes you may deviate a little bit, but it's important. Especially if you have a spouse, they'll help hold you accountable. The number one thing when it comes to kind of resolving money issues is really, it focuses on mindset. And I remember mentioning this to someone who had made a lot of money. He's made thousands of dollars in the stock market. And I was talking to him about mindset, and he was seeing it a little differently. He was almost looking at it like I'm talking about something magical, metaphysical. And no, that wasn't it. It's really about how you think about money. And I'll say it by explaining it this way. Poverty has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with money. I mean, the lack of money can validate that you're in poverty, but sometimes poverty is a mindset. It's not what's in your bank account or what's in your wallet. The majority of people are in poverty because of their mindset, the way they think about money, and the way they react with money, and their network.
That's true.
Right? So if you can't really get to an even keel where you can start building, let alone getting the wealth and sustaining it without changing your mindset about money and changing your mindset overall and incorporating people in your circle who think differently and are going to help you think differently and are going to hold you accountable.
Definitely. Totally agree with you. Guys, we're going to open in the call-in lines now. So I just texted both numbers in case anyone have any questions as we go along. But before we change to other topics, I thought I'd just still have the lines open. For example, if anyone have any questions. So I texted both numbers in. The lines are for American persons who are here in the States. You could call the USA number. And if you're international, you could call the WhatsApp number. Okay? Go ahead now, Kyle.
Yeah, so I want to give some mindset keys. And in our curriculum, in our program, in our cohorts that we built, my daughters helped me with that. So my youngest daughters and oldest is 17 and 16 and 10, they actually helped me run the academy. So when we delivered our first cohort to that gentleman that I was mentioning earlier who asked me to share that information with his kids, they helped me deliver the program. So they helped me facilitate it. And so during the program, we give that content, and we always say the information is on us, but the application is on you as the person that's hearing that content. And so we'll include some mindset keys just to help people continue to think. And so the first one is there's no shortage of money out there. One of the problems that people with a certain mindset have about money is they think it's like a diminishing return. There's only a limited amount of money.
Yes.
And all the wealthy people have it and you can't ever get it.
Correct.
And that's just not true. There's so much money out there.
Unbelievable.
And the second thing, and it kind of goes to that whole mindset piece that I mentioned in terms of what poverty is really about, mindset and network, is you cannot approach money or wealth with a survival mindset. Because life beats us up and we're going through potential struggles or threats from our job and different other things that are going on, trying to build our families, trying to establish our own identities. We're just surviving, but you cannot get to a point of acquiring wealth sustainably if you're just thinking about surviving, if you're just thinking about, just holding on.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about changing that mindset and thinking about thriving. How can I build? How can I rise above that? And if you're thinking about survival and you're constantly battling with forces just to breathe and keep your head above water, it's a losing battle. So it starts with going back to the earlier point, it's really about mindset.
It's mainly about you yourself and what you want and what are you going to do to try to get to it. Sitting down every day and talking about it will never move forward. Thinking about it won't move you forward either. You have to get on your journey. And how are you going to get on your journey if you don't start it? If you're at any ladder you take out, anyone, whether it's a 4-foot ladder, an 18-foot ladder, or a 10-foot ladder, there's so many trods on it. And if you don't start by getting on the first one, you'll never get to the top. So in order to get there, you have to start. That's what it is.
So I'm going to ask you a question. It's not a trick question. But so for example, a bottle of water, if you buy a bottle of water in the States, it's going to be $1.50 to $2 at the store, right? It's an average bottle of water, not
right.
The premier brands. That same bottle of water can be almost $6 if you buy it at an airport.
Correct.
If you had that bottle of water in the desert, it's priceless.
There's no price on it. It just depends on where it is. Correct.
Exactly. It's
location
worth more than what you could, because you could die of thirst in the desert, and now you have the water to prevent that.
Yeah.
So what's the difference with it? It's the same water, right?
True.
The difference is the value that it adds and the need, right? So at $1.50 to $2 at the store, there's a different need than we're at the airport. You can forego it, but in the desert, you can't be in the desert for a sustained period of time without the water. Now, when we apply that to our lives, that means that where we are, we really have to go where we're celebrated and
Mm-hmm.
needed, and it really ties into the value we add. So if we're not celebrated where we are, we have to increase the value we provide, and we also may have to change who we provide that value to so that it's maximized. Just like the bottle of water, it's the same bottle of water. It's just it provides more value in different places.
And there's many ways that you could look at that same story. It's just different scenarios. And I've always talked and told people many times about a shark. If you have a tank in your house with a shark in it, the shark will never grow up, get big enough that it can fit in that tank. But if you take that same shark out of that tank and put it in the ocean, what do you think happens? So a lot of times what happens is we surround ourselves with these walls and don't know that we are the ones that are preventing ourselves from growing. You know, you can only grow so much within a certain circle. And at some point, some of us, what happened is that we've outgrown our circle and then we refuse to move forward. And then that's the reason why we can't move and we can't grow.
Yep. Exactly right. And that really comes down, you talk about the walls you put up. That's a mindset thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because those walls can easily be knocked down. You just have to think and approach it differently. Going back to that example about the water, and this is a key thing. Sometimes, too often, we chase money, and that's the wrong approach. We shouldn't chase money. We should chase value. And the reason why we chase value, because the more value you add, the more money you can earn, the more money you can generate. Money follows value. So if you chase it, it's going to be a long chase. Might last a lifetime, and you may never get it.
Correct.
But if you focus on chasing value and adding more value and becoming more valuable, sky's the limit.
Definitely. I totally agree with you on that. When it comes to stocks itself, how has that been adjusted to you since you've been invested and since you've been doing it yourself?
Yeah. Let me read my disclosure. I want to make sure make the lawyers happy. This content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important when you are considering making investments in the stock market that you conduct your own analysis before making any investments based on your personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently perform due diligence and verify any investment information shared today, or if you access our site. So, gosh, Mario, I mentioned earlier how complicated the stock market has been, and for so long we just haven't been able to access it because of the complexity. Right. And then things started changing. You had companies like Robinhood who started offering you the ability to trade stocks with little or no money on an app. And even prior to Robinhood, there was a company called E-Trade that offered that prior to Robinhood. Robinhood just took, it got very, very popular.
Make it more local for a lot of people.
Financial, yes, during COVID, it got very, very popular. So it's really about breaking it down. So each company has a story, and it's about learning that story and then learning how to analyze it. And what do I mean by that? So let's take Nike, for example. So Nike has a story. So first thing you want to do if you're considering investing in stocks, and this helped me, I learned it, and then it's like I forgot it. That caused some initial trouble when I originally started investing in the stock market in 2018, 2019. Do not invest in anything you don't understand.
Right.
You have to understand it. And I'm not talking about something extremely complex. I'm talking about, what does a company do? How do they make money? How do they get their message and market to customers? Where are they located? Can you order it? Do you have to go into a physical store? Do you have to order it online? Is it popular? Do you like it? do other people you know like you? Right? And so Nike's a good example, I think, because we all understand what they do. They're primarily, we know them for their sneakers, but they're a sneaker and apparel company. So they have sports apparel they offer. Right? So we can kind of say that we understand what Nike does. And if you cannot understand it, or if you can't break it down to like, and I use this example, if you can't break it down to like an 8-year-old in a 3 to 5 minute or a 2 to 5 minute conversation, then you should think twice about even considering investing, because you don't understand it. You need to understand what the company does. And we're going to break the mysticism, and we help break the mysticism when you get involved with Gem Wealth Academy and you take one of our programs, because we're going to make it easy to understand. Something that has just been extremely complex, and it continues to be complex based on a lot of the people that are giving you the knowledge or sharing the information out there. And so you understand what they do, right? And then you got to understand, does this company have a competitive advantage? And what we want to do, Mario, and this is what I've learned over time, you don't want to invest in any old company. You don't want to invest in something just because your brother-in-law told you, or your friend, you know, who drives a Benz told you. You want to do your own research. You want to make sure that you understand it, not just because other people are talking it up. You got to get away from that. Yeah. So that goes back to the other mentality, because to be an investor, to become a good investor, you have to have the temperament to stay in it for the long haul, because it's about the story, right? Nike has a story. We understand what they do. And then the second thing, and I'll come back to the story in a second, the second thing is you have to understand what that story is about. And so it really starts with, are you willing to invest in that company for the next 10 to 20 years? And if the answer is no, maybe you put it on the shelf and you come back to it if you change your mind about investing for 10 and 20 years. You know, because what I have learned and what we teach is long-term investing. It's not a get-rich-quick. You know, true wealth is built from a slow burn, true sustainable wealth. And I think one of the reasons for that is because you have to continue to learn. I mean, we see people all the time, they win the lottery, and what happens a couple of years down the line, they lose all that money because they never developed the mindset to handle the money. They just got the money first, and so they burn it.
Correct.
You know, so we really focus on teaching people long-term strategies and long-term investing, because that's the true way to build sustainable wealth. You know, if somebody's telling you they can do something for you, like the example you said, you know, a week or 30 days, and you give them $1,000 and they'll give you X number back, I would run away and run fast.
Run real quick.
Yes, so that's just the setup, friend.
So for someone who is listening and they have an interest in your academy and in what you the things that we talked about and so on, how do they find you?
Yeah, so first place to go is our website, and I'm going to put it in the chat. www.GEN, short for generation, W, short for wealth, academy, ACADMY. So GENWacademy.com.
Okay.
And then we're on most major social media platforms. We offer a lot of information for free because we just want to help people and help them get educated. So we post a lot of things breaking down sometimes very, very complex subjects that you might hear, like recession and inflation. And we place that on our YouTube channel, Gem Wealth Academy. You can also find us on TikTok under Gen W Academy, and then on
Facebook
as well. We got 2 Facebook pages. So we have the Gem Wealth Academy Business. You know, you can find it under my Facebook, Kyle McGlotten, or Gem Wealth Academy. We also have the personal page that I've kind of retrofitted into the business page. Okay. Or it's a personal page. So we have 2 Facebook pages, but if you Google Gem Wealth Academy or go on the Facebook and put in Gem Wealth Academy, you'll find us.
Sounds very good, and I like the idea that the thought process is to think of the next generation, and making sure that they're able to have all the tools they will need, because technology is going way ahead, and if they're not into what's going on, they're going to be way behind, and you don't want your child or children, depending on how much you have, or how you how you're building your family, but you know, you want to make sure that they have all the right tools for what's coming next.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that, oh man, that's a great segue. I'm gonna stick a pin for myself, because you just queued up something that's really interesting that I'm gonna hold off on. So let me take a step back. Did I answer your question when it comes to investing? I was gonna add another piece to it as well.
Yes, you can go ahead and add it. We got time.
Okay. All right. So understanding what the company does, number one. Number two, are you willing to invest in it for the next 10 to 20 years, right? Because it's a long-term play. And then number three, do they have a moat, right? So moat, as in M-O-A-T. Remember, you had, back in the day, medieval times, you had castle, and the castle had a moat. Well, the moat kept marauders and attackers from raiding the castle, right? It's the same thing with a business. A moat is a competitive advantage that keeps that company or their products number one, or near number one, the top class of products or services, right? And so a perfect example is Apple. Apple has a moat. Now, Apple's moats are different. Apple has something called a switching moat. And what that means is, in order to switch from Apple to an Android or another non-Apple phone, it is very painful, because now the person has to learn a new operating system,
True.
New features, new ways to use the phone, and all of their products may not, if they have AirPods, if they have Apple Watches, they don't sync as well with non-Apple phones. So that's a switching mode. Also, Apple is kind of unique because, especially when you travel to other countries, you may have, the normal day-to-day folks with, Android and other non-Apple phones, but the Apple phones, especially in other countries, are treated like a status symbol. So if you have an Apple phone, you're it. That's something else that you generally don't get with some of these other phones. Now, we could probably argue, maybe, the Samsung XYZ may offer more services and be a better phone, but Apple continues to come out with quality products, because it's not just their phone, it's their other products.
But even with the even with the Apple, the Mac, which is their computer, everything is different, and they have their own apps, their own everything. So nothing, like you said, nothing from Apple works with Android. And if you have a Apple Mac, when you practice using it and using those programs, when you get on a regular laptop, it's like you're lost.
Yep, you're exactly right. Especially you have to switch back and forth. It happens to me all the time, because what I use for business is a MacBook, and then for work it's a standard kind of Windows PC. I think this is the HP.
That's exactly how it is for real, and it's been like that ever since they came out. That's one thing, they came out with a platform, and it's been like that. That's how they do their thing. But with most of the other laptops or computers, you could take a flash drive from one, toss it in the other, and your pictures and everything come up. But if you take pictures on an iPhone, in order to get it off, you need to put it in a specific. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, just to recap on the stock conversation, those three things that I mentioned, you want to understand what the company does. It's critical. You need to be willing to invest in that particular company for the next 10, 20 years. And we don't want to, the way we break it down, we don't break it down thinking about a stock. We break it down thinking about being part owner in this company.
Yes.
So it's like when you align yourself with a person that you're pushing, you're investing time in, you want that person to do well, you're going to be there for that person, right? And the same thing with the companies. You want to understand these things, what they do. Are you willing to hang in there and invest with them for 10 to 20 years? Because if they're a great company, you're going to be very well rewarded. And then the third thing, again, is making sure you can identify or there's some type of competitive advantage or otherwise a moat? What keeps them as the number one or top notch in their industry, in their class? Right? And then once you can say yes to all those things, then you get into, so something that we teach is there's two different type of analysis when you really break down stocks. It's fundamental analysis, and that's looking at, does the company make money? Do they have more debt than they have earnings? Is their debt like an overload? What are they doing? How much does it cost for them to make a sale? Those types of things. Those are fundamental analysis, and that's what we teach at Gen Wealth Academy. But there's also something called technical analysis, and that's actually looking at charts, stock charts, and picking when to buy those companies. So to break it down, to make it simple, the financial analysis teaches you, lets you know what to buy, and the technical analysis teaches you when to buy. And so there's two different types of analysis. We focus on the fundamental. I'm learning more of the technical so that we can include that.
Yes.
But I teach very basic technical technique that will really help people understand when to buy. Because we have, there's a bunch, there's not a bunch. There's a limited amount of great companies. And you want to invest in great companies. But what you don't want to do is invest in great companies at the wrong price. Because your job is to earn a return,
yes,
to make money. So if you invest in a great company at the wrong price, you're less likely to earn a return. We want returns 10%, 11%, 15%, and those are only going to happen if you invest in great companies, number one, with those three criteria I mentioned, and then investing at the right price. Because you want to buy, invest in the company on a discount. Just like we like sales, we want to invest in companies that are on sale. And we help people kind of learn all of that.
And do you have, is it like it's not a course, it's an ongoing thing, I would assume, right?
No, we have a 7-week course that focuses on teaching mindset, that kind of wealth mindset or that money building mindset, and changing the mindset that you may have already or adjusting it. It also goes into learning about different income streams and different other types of investments, starting businesses. We're adding a new feature, purchasing businesses, because not everybody can start a business, but there are a lot of businesses for sale that you can purchase, right? And then we help people understand how to develop income streams. And then we get into investing in great companies, in the stock market, investing in cryptocurrency, understanding the metaverse. And then we don't position our course as, hey, starting a business or investing only is the only way you can go. We understand that this will be something supplemental, and it's nothing wrong with that. That's how I started. It's something supplemental, and for the most part, my investments continue to be supplemental because I haven't gone full time in investing yet. But that's not a bad thing. So what we want to do is we want to be practical as well. So this goes back to one of the things that you mentioned earlier. We also, in our metaverse course, in our metaverse class, we teach people how the metaverse works. We talk to them about NFTs and what those mean, and Web3 and all that. But we also, in all of the modules, we teach them how they can leverage it so that they can begin earning cash flow and building wealth. And then from a practical perspective, again, going back to the point about everybody's not going to invest 100% of the time,
right?
Or let that be their primary source of income, because it takes a while to build up to there. We talk about, what skills are kind of future-proof, at least for the next 10 to 20 years and sometimes beyond. And especially when we're thinking about kids, we help, the parents, because our main focus is kids between the age of 10 and 18. But we're developing programs all the time because I've gotten so many requests from adults that don't have kids, or adults that want to learn first, and then maybe they'll take their kids to a separate program for their kids.
Okay.
And so we talk about like the career things and the choices and developing those skills and investing in yourself and some of those things you can do to make sure you have the skills that are future proof for the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
Information key. Information
Yes.
is key. And it's good to and I think the younger these kids are and the more you can get, if you start getting them into it earlier, then it's like once they get it, they just keep wanting more and more, and you don't have to eventually
Exactly.
after a while they're starting to get the information and bring it to you.
Yes, that's exactly. Or to ask you questions. Hey, I've learned this now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dad or Mom, I heard about this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And I went out and researched it. What do you think? Let's talk about it. And You're exactly right. Because you got to be practical. One of the other things we do is we pare down because that 7 weeks may be too much because it's a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another program where it just focuses on learning how to invest in great companies and learning how to invest in cryptocurrency. And so we cover mindset, investing in great companies and cryptocurrency. And then we have one just for learning how to invest in great companies, a lot of stock market.
How about I remember earlier you did say real estate. Do you do anything on real estate as well or no?
Yeah, so we touch on certain aspects of real estate. I mentioned I got involved in real estate. It was the first type of investing I had ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about the premise of real estate. Don't get too hot and heavy into retail real estate or residential real estate. But I talk about the fact that I was able to, again, invest in the skills, learn. And so I've gone beyond just investing in the residential real estate. I now invest in commercial real estate. So we teach a little bit about that, like base level,
Yes.
to kind of whet their appetite. But that's something that I'm considering building programs on. Or even though that's kind of that got my foothold into investing,
Mm-hmm.
I spent kind of the last 5 years focused on understanding companies and startups and the stock market and cryptocurrency, and less time with the residential real estate. So I would have to, even though I still have the materials that I learned that I invested in,
Right.
I still have those here sitting in my office, so I can always go back and dial it up. And I still keep my ear to the grindstone, ear to the streets, so to speak, when it comes to real estate.
Whatever is new, you try to get as much information as possible.
Correct.
Okay. Any other topic you wanted to touch on before we go?
Another great question. Let me say this, and this goes back to the first point I made earlier about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where you are, where you live in the world, whether
Right.
you live in the Caribbean, whether you live in the U.S., Canada, Africa, there are opportunities to build wealth,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just need to make sure you tie into it and you begin to change the mindset, like I was mentioning earlier. But there are ways. I don't want anybody that's listening tonight, or they may play this in a couple days or a week from now, to think that there are not opportunities based on where you live. That's defeatist thinking.
Right.
And when we change our mindset and we begin to develop that stronger wealth mindset and prosperity mindset, we don't think about, what we can't do. We think about how to make it happen.
Right.
Right? And there's so many opportunities, because if there weren't, you wouldn't have millionaires and billionaires in other countries. I mean, the richest black man in the world, for example, is from Nigeria.
That does not get known publicly, so a lot of people will never know that.
Yep. So this gentleman has more money than Oprah, Tyler Perry.
Wait a second. Is that the guy that owns that cement? Is that the guy that owns that cement company?
Yes.
I know him.
Yes.
Yes, I know him. And he started out too, just like he started out. He wasn't born wealthy.
Yep.
So
And Mario, maybe on a future call we can get a little bit more in depth in some of the things that we covered, because I know we covered things high level.
Right.
We can also provide information about how people outside of the U.S. can invest, whether it's the stock market or in cryptocurrency.
This is pretty much an introduction to this zone and what's being offered and what's available and so on. But we'll always be able to add on to it. We'll always be able to, explore more in details as we go, and just to get an idea that there's more to it than just really a 9 to 5, or more to it than just running around every day. And you can use yourself in a positive way to develop, or you can use yourself by just being almost like a chicken without a head.
Yes, because I don't want people to get into that trap where they don't realize there's something else, or they don't take action on the something else in terms of being able to better position themselves and their families and generations to come financially. And they get stuck, and they get older, and they lose their job, or their skills aren't being developed, and they lose their job, and they're in a bad spot. We're going to get to it. We can cover this on future conversations. There's going to get to, specifically in the U.S., there's going to get to a point where people are underemployed. And we have a population of people that are underemployed, so they have the skills necessary to make more money, but the jobs just aren't there. There's going to be a situation here soon where people are going to have degrees and have these higher skills. And because the job market is changing with robotics, with technology,
I've seen that.
Something called artificial intelligence and machine learning, where you can replace workers. I mean, I posted some things on our YouTube channel about this Tesla robot called Optimus that's going to sell between 20 and 25,000. Yep. And it can lift
up to 50 pounds.
50 to 60 pounds, yeah. And so what if Amazon, because we know Amazon has a large workforce.
Yep.
What
and
if
they decide to buy
rid of half their workforce and buys these Tesla? They don't have to provide health insurance for them. They don't have
don't get tired.
Invest in they don't get tired. They don't need to take lunch breaks. The software allows you to proactively maintenance them before they break down, because it's getting more and more sophisticated. So you guys out there, whoever's listening, really need to get something, whether it's our program, whether it's watching real TV to get more educated on different topics, whatever it is, you got to develop some skills. And investing is a skill, trading stocks is a skill. You need to get educated and become abreast and be more skilled, because that's the only way your value is going to increase, and that's the only way you're going to be able to increase the amount of money that you earn and can earn, and eventually build wealth.
And I'll say something to you, since you say that just now. It's funny that messages like this, which is so important to help persons to develop themselves. Okay, so I don't have a job, and I'm interested in building myself. What am I going to try to do? In order to make money, I got to go get a job, or I got to go figure out how to hustle something in order to make money. And forum like this, or an opportunity like this is something that usually is paid for. Honestly, this is something that usually is paid for. And right now, tonight, we offered it persons the opportunity to listen for free on how to develop themselves. And it's funny, a lot of people wouldn't really take it as serious to say, I need this, to invest an hour in myself, to invest 45 minutes or 2 hours in myself to learn something more, to be able to develop. But when you see videos that are being shared on most of these social media platforms that will get a lot of views, if you really look into 97% of them aren't really stuff that is helping. But people these days find more time to waste than actually use to develop themselves. And that's the sad part of what's going on in the world today.
And I have great points about that. And I used to be like really, really hard on those people and that mentality. But you know what I've learned? We are, the financial educators like myself, the digital financial educators, the digital creators that, focus on financial literacy. And almost everybody that's offering something out there Rio TV, for example, we are fighting for the same viewable hours that every other type of media, every other type of entertainment is searching for.
Mm-hmm.
So really what it is, it's because people have gone to work during the day and they've gotten beaten up by work, they get beat up by life, they get beat up by everything that happens in the day,
Mm-hmm.
that they just need to detach, man. So it's easy to watch a Netflix show and binge a couple shows when you get home from work on Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, man. I have some plans to really help get this stuff out there and make it so much more interesting to the folks that are out there. Right?
Yes, and
you got to choose your hard. You got to choose your uncomfortable, right?
that's what it is. And we also
Yep.
appreciate it of all those persons who took the time out to listen tonight, who
Yes,
took the
we
time out to
appreciate
view, and those who will take the time out to view after we have come to an end, and then it will still be available. Know you're appreciated and know you're loved and respected. But we want to just encourage you to continue to grow yourself, to continue to take the time out to build, because if you don't, at the end of the day, what you invest in you is something that you can multiply by so many. Because imagine you learning any one of those inventors that designed and developed anything from back in the 1800s and the 1900s, all that we that are living today are living off. So anything we develop now or anything we build on now is gonna feed the next generation and their kids too.
Exactly. And it comes down to hard and uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to choose your hard and uncomfortable, not making enough and barely surviving, and not your month runs out, your money runs out before your month does. Being in those positions, that's that's an uncomfortable. Yes, maybe learning a new skill, investing in yourself, learning about trading, learning about investing in some of the things that we offer and some of the things that are out there. That's a hard and uncomfortable too. But it really comes down to you have to choose your hard and uncomfortable. One of them is going to be hard and uncomfortable now, but it's going to bless you tremendously and bless your family tremendously in the future. One of them is going to continue to be hard and uncomfortable,
No matter what.
no matter what. It's gonna be long lasting in that position where the other one will shift.
Exactly. The bed won't get more comfortable as time progresses if you can't afford to buy a new one.
Exactly. But it's been a pleasure, man. I thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come on, and I really appreciate your platform, and I'm a big supporter of you. We'll stay tight because we've known each other for a long time, and we met initially in Jamaica when I worked down there, obviously, and continue to have a really strong friendship. But I'm a big fan of yours, and I am just really rooting for your success, and I'm going to help you in any way I can.
Bless up, man. And thank you, too, for investing your time with us tonight. We also appreciate you for sharing all the bit of knowledge that you've already offered to us and the more that's coming. Because I know from tonight, you have more coming for next week. So, guys,
absolutely,
it was a pleasure tuning in with all of you tonight. And with all good must come to a pause, not an end. We're putting it as a pause until the next time we'll join you live. Again, Kyle, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, man. All right, have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys, so remember, share the live. Remember, keep subscribing. And until we meet again on the next Monday night for this motivational talk. Tomorrow night, tune in. I have a Haitian that I will be interviewing tomorrow night that will talk to us based on what's happening in Haiti, based on other experiences and other things that will be discussed at 8 p.m. just the same. We'll go live again and see you tomorrow night. And remember, Thursday, we have the young Jamaican trainer from New York, a little kid who started working out before the age of 4. Trust me, you do not want to miss that one. 8 p.m. is the time when all shows will be broadcasting live, so you guys can see and keep in tuned. So as long as you're available, set your clock to remember to check on us. If you are subscribed, you will be notified when we go live. But if you're not, now is the time to do so. And just keep informed. I do post short clips all the time, keeping you updated with whatever is going on, whether it's Jamaica, Trinidad, or all over the world. Wherever I get these clips from, I do post them also. And if you have any suggestion and any videos that you'd like us to discuss or talk on, please feel free to comment in the comment section. Alrighty? Have a good night, and thank you again for tuning in. Peace. We out.